Before I start the series, you need to know I brought you an absolute banger today. This show blew up. It's about a broke, miserable guy who turns into a superhero. But sadly, for his power to get stronger, he has to spend money out of his own pocket. And I'm telling you, this dude is so broke he's got nothing. So that's his story. Come with me, and let's see how he managed to deal with that power. The series starts with our hero, Sang. Even though he's handsome and smart, he's sadly broke and has no money. We see him standing in a real estate office because he wants to buy an apartment to get married in. The guy just wants to get married, people, but the prices are insanely high, crazy high. He's shocked and says to himself, how is a broke guy who's just starting out in life supposed to save enough money to buy an apartment? There's also a beautiful girl standing with him, and we find out she's his fiancée, Minsu. She's kind, she loves him, and she wants to marry him. She tells him there's an apartment she liked, and she takes him to the employee so they can ask about the price. Sang doesn't want to upset her, so he goes with her, praying it's cheap. But the employee shocks him and says it costs $1 million. Of course, our hero tells her, even if you sold me personally, I still wouldn't bring in half that amount. Minsu asks if they can maybe take it on easy installments for the rest of their lives and just pay every month, but the employee tells them they need a down payment first. Then she suggests they join a lottery, buy a number, and maybe win an apartment for free. Sang says, now that's my kind of thing. Anything with the word free in it automatically gets my attention. The idea gets in his head, so he decides to try. He takes the ticket from her and tries to open it, but unlucky people stay unlucky even if Aladdin himself puts a magic lamp on their head. He opens it and finds it blank. He gets disappointed because he's never won anything in his life. But Minsu comforts him and tells him it's fine, then she takes him home. They sit and eat together, and there she starts counting the money they've saved so she can figure out how much they still need for the down payment on the apartment they want to get married in. And honestly, this girl turns out to be smart. She knows how to plan because she works as an accountant at a big company, but then she notices his salary is short, and she realizes he spent money without telling her. Yeah, dear viewer, just like any wife who immediately notices where every last dollar went. He tells her, I bought a bike so I can save transportation money. He says he did that because he knows she hates waste, so he wanted to save commuting costs. Then he remembers a flashback to their first date. Back then, he was nervous and wanted to hold her hand, but he was shy. Minsu got annoyed and told him, I spend a lot of money on clothes and makeup and all kinds of stuff, and you spend money on dates too, so are we gonna make this official already and start saving or not? Sang was surprised by what she said, but he liked her personality. He told her he loved her, and just like that they got together. Since then, they've been engaged. Back in the present, Sang decides he wants to marry her as soon as possible, because he's sure she truly loves him and really cares about what's best for him. Then suddenly, he gets a message from his father asking to meet him, but he ignores it and refuses to reply. Minsu encourages him to go, maybe they can borrow money from him. But Sang tells her his father is a failure with tons of debts and there's no way he can help. Still, he decides to visit him just to tell them he plans to get married. The next day, he gets on a bus and goes to the rural village where his father lives. The road is so long he nearly falls asleep from boredom. When he finally gets home, his mother is happy to see him and welcomes him warmly because she missed him. Then suddenly, he hears his father in the storage room and decides to go talk to him. When he walks in, he finds him sitting alone, and Sang feels weird about his whole personality, because his father has spent his whole life borrowing money and nobody knows where it all goes. One time he even stole Sang's piggy bank when he was little. Because of that, his mother had to work to support the house. And ever since then, our hero has hated him. He snaps out of the memory and asks him, what do you want from me? His father comes over and tells him he finally retired. Sang makes fun of him, because as far as he knows, the man spent his whole life unemployed and never worked. But his father steps closer and says, I'll show you what I was secretly doing. He takes $100 from him, squeezes his hand hard, and shows him his strength. Sang is shocked. The man is old. So how does he have that kind of power? Sang tries to pull his hand away but can't, and he starts screaming in pain. Then his father tells him to look into his eyes so he can know the secret of his power. Sang thinks it's strange, but he does it anyway. Then he sees memories and learns that his whole family has had superpowers for thousands of years. Sang comes out of the vision and notices his hand feels lighter, but suddenly his father stands in front of him and shoots him in the head with a nail gun. Our guy drops to the floor and thinks he died, but then he's shocked to realize he didn't get hurt. The nails are what shattered. He just stares, completely confused. Then his father starts explaining everything. He tells him, you've inherited the superpower from me. Now you have unnatural strength, but every time you use it, the money you have with you will disappear. He tells him to use it for good and help people whose lives are in danger. Sang is stunned by that. Then when he opens his wallet, he finds his money is already gone. He's in shock. The day I inherit a superpower is the day I discover it literally runs on cash. He begs his father and says, please, I don't want this power. He grabs his hand and says, "Take it back, I'm begging you, take it back." But his father laughs and tells him it's too late. "You inherited it, son. I can't take it back." Then he gives him a card for a rich woman in case he ever needs help, and he advises him to save every bit of money he has because he'll need it in the future. Sang gets mad at what he's saying, leaves him, and walks away. When he gets back to the city, he meets his girlfriend Minsu and tells her what happened. She says, "Oh right, and the hero dies at the end too, right? What do you think I am, stupid?" She laughs it off and thinks he's lying because he doesn't want to marry her. She gets upset and walks away, but he goes after her and decides to prove what he's saying. He takes $100 from her and puts it in his pocket. Then he uses his superpower and grabs an iron bar. She's shocked and says, "What the hell? That was way too easy. Wait, where did the money go?" She can't believe her eyes and thinks he's trying to prank her, so she tells him to do it again and gives him another $100. And Sang really does grab another iron bar and snaps it easily. This time Minsu believes him. She takes him somewhere and they sit down so they can figure out the secret of his power. She gives him money and starts running a bunch of tests on him. They realize that the more money he uses, the stronger he gets, and the crazier the things he can do. But she gets annoyed because that means he'll never be able to save anything. So she tells him, "Don't use your power unless it's absolutely necessary. Please, we need to buy an apartment. We want to get married." Our hero gets frustrated because his power turns out to be useless. He sits alone, thinking, until he notices he has $1,000 with him, so he decides to try it out. He uses it and tries to jump high, and he actually succeeds in flying. He looks down at the city from above, stunned, feeling like he's dreaming, but then he decides to listen to Minsu and stop using it. The next day, he wakes up early to go to work and gets dressed, but then he remembers what Minsu said, so he leaves his money at home and only takes enough for transportation. He goes to the subway, and there he sees an old woman carrying a bunch of heavy bags. He wants to help her, but his money is limited. His conscience starts bothering him. He feels bad for her and decides to help, but then he gets scared that if he uses his power, his money will vanish, so he changes his mind again. The old woman gets mad and curses him out. Sang feels embarrassed about what happened. Then when he gets to work, he walks around slowly and refuses to help his coworkers. He even lets the door close on them just so he can save his energy as much as possible. Everyone is surprised by the way he's acting and keeps talking badly about him. They say he's selfish and lazy. When the manager hears about it, he calls him into his office and tells him to help his coworkers or he'll fire him. Sang feels embarrassed, apologizes, and promises he'll try. At the end of the day, he goes back home and tells Minsu what happened. He says his image at work is getting worse and he wants to help his coworkers, but she refuses and tells him they need the money and have to save so they can get married. Then she sells his laptop, and to make up for it, she gives him money to buy a used PlayStation. Nice little trick there. Sang gets happy and goes downstairs to do it. He finds the seller he had arranged to meet waiting under the building, and the guy gives him the console and even throws in extra games as a gift. Sang likes how kind he is and how respectable he seems, so he thanks him. But on his way back, he sees some thugs beating that seller up to steal his money. Sang gets angry and wants to help him, but then he remembers what Minsu said. If he uses his power, the money he has will disappear. So he backs off and runs away, telling himself that if he were rich, he'd be a good person and help people. He becomes convinced that money is the most important thing in the world. When he gets home, he gives the rest of the money to Minsu, but she notices it's $50 short and realizes he used it while running because he was in a hurry. Sang spends the whole night playing PlayStation, trying to forget what happened and how he couldn't help the seller. Then a rash starts showing up on his hands and neck. The next day, he meets his mother at a restaurant, and she tells him she wants to give him something. Sang gets scared he might inherit something from her too and tells her no, he doesn't want it. She laughs and tells him not to worry. Then she gives him a bag full of money and tells him she saved it from working, and asks him to buy an apartment and get married in it. Treat yourself, son. Sang is shocked because it's a big amount, and he's happy because now he'll be able to get married. He thanks her, leaves, and calls Minsu to tell her. But suddenly, an accident happens right in front of him. A bus has flipped off the road and is just about to fall, and he sees there are children inside. It's about to fall off the bridge while they cry and scream for help. Our hero remembers his father's last advice to help people, and he also remembers Minsu telling him to save the money. So what is he supposed to do? He's torn and can't decide, but his conscience won't leave him alone. In the end, he decides to do the right thing. He grabs the money his mother gave him, runs to the bus and catches it just in time. He pulls it back with his superpower and manages to get it back onto the bridge. But because of that, all the money he had disappears and turns into loose change scattered around him. Our hero is crushed because that means he can't get married now. But then he notices the rash on his hands has faded, and people are amazed by his strength and start filming him. At that same time, we see a girl trying to run away from a dangerous gang. She runs as fast as she can until she reaches a dead end. They surround her and tell her to surrender, but she laughs and says, "I brought you here because there are no surveillance cameras and nobody will see what I'm about to do to you." Suddenly fire comes out of her hands and sets the the place ablaze. It turns out she has a superpower too. She controls fire. She walks toward them, ready to roast them alive. And when the gang members try to attack her, she dodges all their hits and starts beating them left and right, smashing faces and bones. Nobody can touch her. Everyone gets scared of her power and runs away. The girl gets happy and thinks she's finally safe. But then the gang leader arrives, and we find out her name is Joanna. She looks cute, but she's vicious, not sweet at all. She walks up to the girl and tells her to surrender and tell her where her superpowered friends are. But the girl refuses to reveal where they are and gets ready to attack Joanna with all her strength. Joanna just laughs, opens her umbrella, and suddenly it starts raining. Turns out she has a superpower too. She can control the weather. The girl is shocked. Her fire starts dying out. The gang takes advantage of the moment, grabs her, and kidnaps her. Then they lock her in a secret underground lab to experiment on her. After that, we see the girl's friends, and they also have powers like her, but I'll tell you about them later, dear viewer. Don't rush me. They get worried about her because she still hasn't come back, and they suspect Joanna, the gang leader, definitely kidnapped her. They start wondering what they should do now. Then suddenly they see the video of Sang saving the bus. They're amazed by his power and say that guy has to help us, so they decide to go look for him, because he's the only one who can defeat Joanna and save their friend from the gang. But at that moment, our hero is sitting at the police station, not understanding why the cops arrested him even though he saved the children. He hears criminals talking about him and saying he's the one who made the bus fall off the bridge. They keep mocking him because he looks weak. Sang can't defend himself because he has no money on him, but then he remembers the card his father gave him and decides to call that rich woman. When she answers, she recognizes his name and reassures him she'll help. She really does pay his bail and gets him out of the station. Sang is happy, but then he finds a bunch of reporters waiting for him, so he decides to leave through the back door. Outside, the rich woman is waiting for him and takes him with her. On the way, Sang thanks her for helping him, but she tells him his father owes $1 billion. I don't even need to tell you that means dollars. He says, "Why did I even call you? Just pretend I never called. That amount is enough to keep me paying for the rest of my life. I can't even buy a $1 million apartment, people. Please just let me out." But he doesn't get the chance. The rich woman gives him a sedative and kidnaps him. At the same time, we see Joanna in her secret lab watching the video of Sang, and she decides to capture him. We find out she experiments on superpowered people and steals their powers. She goes to the fire girl and takes her power from her. She keeps laughing, and it becomes clear she's planning something dangerous. Then Sang wakes up and finds the rich woman standing in front of him. She gives him money and asks him to use his superpower so she can make sure it's real. Our hero refuses, but suddenly her guards attack him and keep beating him until his face gets busted up and he suffers serious injuries. He drops to the ground in pain and is forced to grab the money. The moment he does, all his wounds heal. He gets furious and decides to make them regret it. "You want to see the power? Fine, I'll show you the power." He stuffs the money into his pocket and attacks them. One punch sends a man flying. Everyone is stunned by his strength and starts fearing him, but suddenly the money runs out. He gets exhausted and collapses. Now the rich woman is sure he really is superpowered. She sends the guards out and sits down to talk to him. She tells him she used to love his father and wanted to marry him, but he was dumb and refused her. Then she offers Sang a deal: marry her daughter so he can have a superpowered child with her, and in return she'll erase all of his father's debts and make him rich. Sang is stunned by what she says, but he apologizes and tells her he's already committed and loves his fiancée. Then he spots $100 on the ground, decides to use it, grabs it, and flies out the window, managing to escape. But the rich woman just laughs because she knows he'll come back to her once his money runs out. Sang makes it home exhausted, but he finds Minsu waiting for him. She's angry because she saw the video of him saving the bus. She asks where all that money came from. Our hero gets nervous and is forced to tell her the truth. He tells her he took it from his mother so he could buy an apartment. He apologizes and says he had no other choice but to save the children. "I couldn't just watch them in that bus and leave them there." Minsu gets upset because he sacrificed the apartment money they were going to get married with, and she decides to break up with him. She leaves crying. Sang tries to go after her but can't catch her. Then suddenly there's an explosion in the apartment building where he lives, and the place is literally destroyed. He sees two gang members standing in the street and realizes they're after him. They did that to get rid of any money he might still have. He gets scared and is forced to run from them. He keeps running until he reaches an abandoned shack in the forest and decides to hide there so he can think. He's confused and has no idea what to do. He tries calling Minsu because he wants to make sure she's okay, but she refuses to answer him or reply to his messages. He gets worried and decides to go see her the next day to warn her about the gang. The next day, we see Minsu on her way to attend her friend's wedding celebration at a hotel, and Joanna is watching her. She tells the gang to kidnap her. That's the rope that'll lead us straight to our hero. They follow her orders and set off a huge explosion. Minsu gets scared and tries to escape, but sadly, the fire traps her. News about the fire spreads everywhere, and luckily Sang sees it and realizes she's in danger. He decides to use his power to save her, but he doesn't have any money on him to do that, so he's forced to enter a bank, withdraw every cent he has saved, and sprint to the hotel as fast as he can. Minsu is trapped in the fire, and the ceiling starts collapsing on top of her. She gets terrified and feels like this is the end, but Sang arrives just in time, stands in front of her, catches the ceiling before it falls, throws it aside, and hugs her to calm her down. He promises he'll protect her even if it costs him his life. Minsu thanks him while crying and asks him, "Wait, where did you get all this money?" He tells her, "From the bank." She says, "From the bank? You withdrew all the money we saved too? Girl, weren't you just dying? This is not the time." Then he keeps punching through the wall until he makes a huge opening and gets the people out of the place. After that, he comes back to her, shows her a marriage application, and tells her there's no better chance than this to propose. He asks her to marry him. Minsu gets happy, hugs him, and agrees. They decide to leave the place together, but suddenly one of the gang's guards appears, and he has a superpower. We find out Joanna transferred the fire girl's ability to him. He comes toward them holding a pipe, clearly intending to kill them. Our hero decides to take him down. He takes off his jacket and charges at him, trying to hit him, but the guard dodges his attacks and burns his face with fire. Luckily, Sang still has some money left, so he heals himself. He grabs his last $100 and decides to attack with all his strength, but unfortunately the guard's power is insane. He blasts him with fire, sends him flying, and walks toward him to kidnap him and take him to the lab. Minsu tries to save him by throwing rocks at the guard to distract him, but he gets angry and decides he'll kill her first and deal with the rest later. She gets scared and feels like this really is the end, but Sang gets up just in time, hurls a huge rock at the guard, defeats him, and comes out of the flames while holding the wedding cash box. He uses the money inside it to heal his injuries, but it runs out and he becomes exhausted. Minsu hugs him, not knowing what to do to save him. Then suddenly the good superpowered people arrive. They crash through the wall and pull him out. Our hero is shocked when he sees them, but they calm him down and tell him they were friends of his father. They give him money to save his life and take him with them to their hideout so he can rest. While he's there, Sang dreams about everything that happened in the fire. He wakes up startled and finds the superpowered guy who saved him sitting in front of him. The man introduces himself and says he's a lawyer, and his power lets him phase through walls. Then he takes Sang to Minsu, who's sitting with another superpowered woman. She tells him she's a cook, and her power lets her move anything from a distance. Sang is shocked. He can't believe there are superpowered humans like him. They offer to let him join their team so they can help each other, but he refuses because he doesn't trust them. He tries to take Minsu and leave, but then he remembers his house burned down and he has nowhere to go. The lawyer asks him to come along, so they take him and head down to a secret place underground. There, the cook uses her power. She moves boxes without touching them and opens a hidden door. Sang is stunned by what he sees and finally becomes sure they're telling the truth. Then the lawyer starts explaining everything about the gang. He tells him they're rich people who have everything they could dream of except superpowers. That's why they hunt us. They want to take our power. He shows him a picture of Joanna and tells him she experiments on people like them and steals their powers. He warns Sang that she's definitely looking for him and wants to kidnap him. Sang gets scared and decides to hide, but the lawyer tells him that's not a solution because she'll find him easily. You need to train and make your power stronger because you're the only one who can beat them. But Sang refuses and tells him he just wants to live in peace. He takes Minsu and leaves, but the lawyer reminds him that he saved the children on the bus. He says, "I know you have a good heart and love helping people. You have to take this chance because if you run, you'll spend your whole life a coward, your whole life afraid." Sang is moved by his words and finally feels the responsibility. He decides to carry out his father's wish, use his power to help people, and defeat the bad guys. At the same time, a police officer goes to the hotel where the fire happened. He's confused because he doesn't know what caused the flames to spread. When he checks the surveillance cameras, he sees Minsu standing there and notices she didn't run away. He feels like she knows something and decides to question her. After that, Sang goes with the cook to train. She makes him carry heavy boxes to build up his endurance. When he finishes, he goes to the lawyer and starts boxing training with him so he can become fast and skilled in combat. He tries to hit him, but the lawyer dodges every attack and beats him easily. Sang learns he can't rely only on his power. He has to use his brain too. He's convinced by that, so from then on he starts exercising every day, training, running, and boxing, and he succeeds. He's determined to increase both his strength and his reaction speed. The lawyer feels he's finally ready and asks him to help them defeat the gang. He shows him a map of the secret lab and tells him they're going to attack it to free the superpowered people being held there. Then the cook gives him new clothes with room to keep money and coins in them so he can use them in battle. Sang gets happy, thanks her, and decides to test his power. He puts on a mask and starts roaming the streets until he finds the same thugs thugs who beat up the PlayStation seller. They think he's just some normal guy and start mocking him. Our hero decides to teach them some manners. He grabs $100, uses his superpower, beats them up badly, warns them that if they ever rob anyone again he'll finish them, and gives the PlayStation back to its owner to make up for what happened. He's happy he fixed his mistake. Then he goes home and finds Minsu waiting for him. She tells him she found a new job at another company with a higher salary. Then she gives him an envelope full of money so he can use it for training. Our hero gets happy, thanks her, and promises that once he defeats the gang, he'll save up a lot of money and make up for everything she spent. At that same time, Joanna goes to the secret lab and orders the doctor to inject the guard so he can become superpowered. The doctor refuses because she wants to conduct her own experiments, and this is dangerous even for her. But sadly, she's forced to obey because she's afraid of Joanna. The next day, Sang meets the superpowered group, thinking they're about to carry out the plan, but instead they take him to another superpowered person who can see the future. When they get there, he's surprised because the guy is an old man. They all sit together and ask whether Sang is ready to fight the gang. Then they start using their powers, and the old man reveals his true side. His eyes turn white, he starts saying strange things, and they realize he's predicting that the coins in the water are what will save Sang's life. When he finishes, he forgets everything and asks them what his own name is. Sang is confused and thinks maybe the man was just rambling, but it turns out the old man really does have a power that appears for a few seconds and then disappears. Sang goes back to his friends and tells them the old man must have lost his power because of age. But then suddenly, the old man comes out and tells the cook her life is in danger. They're shocked by what he says, and a moment later someone really does throw a canister at her. Sang uses his power and saves her just in time. Because of that, a large number of gang members arrive and surround the place to capture them. Our hero clearly wants to fight, but the lawyer hands him money and tells him to run while he holds them off. Sang is forced to listen because he doesn't have enough money. He starts running, but then he sees the lawyer trying to keep them back and gets scared for him because there are too many of them. He won't be able to beat them alone. Sang keeps thinking, then decides to call the rich woman. He asks her to lend him money and says he'll do whatever she wants. The rich woman laughs and agrees. After she hangs up, she sends him the money. We also notice that Minsu works at her company now because that's the new job she found. After that, Joanna corners the superpowered group and threatens to kill them if they don't surrender. But the old man looks into her eyes and sees her future. He sees that the bullet she's going to fire will come back to her. Joanna gets mad, raises her gun, and shoots at him. Everyone thinks he's dead, but Sang arrives right in time, uses his power, and catches the bullet with his hand. He had taken a lot of money from the rich woman, so he starts spending it and attacks the gang, beating them left and right. His superpowered friends get happy and decide to help him too, so they all start fighting together. They manage to take down a large number of gang members, but then they notice a sniper shooting at them from far away. But come on now, who do you think this is? It's Sang. He throws a table at him and sends him flying. Joanna is impressed by his power and orders all the gang members to attack him. Then a huge car gets thrown toward them, but Sang catches it. After that, the superpowered guard arrives, and his power has gotten stronger because of the experiments done on him. But our hero isn't scared of him at all. He decides to kill him. He charges him and tries to hit him, but the guard blocks all his attacks easily and even uses his firepower, stepping closer to finish him off. Sang counters him because he expected that, so the guard can't properly use his firepower. But then Sang realizes his money has run out too, so now the two of them have to fight with their real strength. Sang tries to use his boxing training and throws quick combinations one after another, but the guard's strength is inhuman. He grabs Sang's hands, twists them, and shoves his head into water so he can't breathe. Sang feels like this is the end, but then he remembers what the old man said about the coins in the water saving his life. Sure enough, he looks into the water and sees loose change there. He decides to use it, and the moment he grabs it, his superpower comes back again. He lands heavy blows on the guard, sends him flying, and wins the fight. He comes up out of the water laughing and full of confidence. Joanna is amazed by his strength, then hands him a phone and tells him to speak to her father, the boss of the gang. The man introduces himself and says he's the richest person in the city. He offers to buy Sang's superpower in exchange for enough money to fulfill all his dreams. Then he ends the call to give him time to think. Sang is shocked and doesn't know what to do. He keeps thinking about it the whole way until he decides to go see his family. He tells them he's going to marry Minsu. His mother gets happy and congratulates him, but his father asks where he's going to get the money because he knows he's broke. Sang gets nervous and takes him aside to talk privately. He tells him what happened and that the gang leader wants to buy his superpower. His father is shocked and tells him money isn't everything, son. He warns him they might subdue him, but Sang isn't convinced by his father's words. He says, "I don't want to live my life like you." He decides he wants to get rid of his power because it only brings him trouble, then leaves. The next day, he goes to work, still thinking about the gang boss's offer. He's hesitant and doesn't know whether the man is fooling him or telling the truth, so he goes to see the cook to make sure. He brings her the food she likes and asks whether it's even possible to sell their powers. She's surprised by the question and tells him the gang stole the power of their friend who controls fire, which means they really can transfer powers. She takes him with her, and they go to Joanna's office. They open her safe and find pictures of superpowered people who sold their powers for money, which confirms it's possible. But then she sees a picture of her kidnapped friend and gets sad because she couldn't protect her. At the same time, we see Joanna sitting with her father, asking him to give her one more chance and promising to capture Sang. But he refuses and says he has decided to ask her brother for help. We find out he means Joe because Joe is a professional. Joanna gets angry that he doesn't trust her and storms off. After that, Sang calls him and says he agrees to sell his power. He asks for $2 billion. The boss gets happy because Sang's power is more important than the money, and of course he agrees. Sang is shocked because with that amount he can pay his debts, pay off his father's debts, and fulfill all his dreams. So he decides to celebrate with Minsu. He takes her out, they sit in a restaurant, and he buys her the ice cream she loves. After that, he lifts her up and flies with her to a high place, spending a lot of money to let her see the city from above. Minsu is happy and feels like she's dreaming. She asks him why he's doing all this, and he gives her a wedding ring. He thanks her for standing by him and always helping him, and he promises he'll make it up to her and make her the happiest woman in the world. For the first time in his life, our hero feels free. The next day he goes to work and keeps helping his coworkers because money doesn't matter to him anymore. Everyone is surprised that he's changed and likes how kind he's become, but suddenly the police show up to question him. Sang gets scared they'll discover the truth, so he decides to run away quickly, sell his power, and then there won't be any evidence against him. He really does leave through the back door and takes off running. After that, he calls the gang boss and asks him to buy his power today because he needs the money right now. The boss is happy and agrees. Sang goes to meet him, but when he arrives he finds the lawyer waiting for him. The lawyer knows exactly what he's planning to do and decides to stop him. The two get ready to fight, but suddenly their cook friend shows up and uses her power to throw a pillar at them to stop what they're doing. The lawyer catches it and tries to hit Sang, while Sang blocks his blows, and they all keep fighting until they get tired and sit on the ground. Then suddenly, a car almost hits them. Sang takes advantage of the moment, jumps over the gate, and enters the lab. There, he runs into the gang members who take him to the room where they do experiments. Joanna is waiting for him and welcomes him. She shows him a bag full of money and tells him he'll get it after they transfer his power. Then she makes him sit in a machine so they can begin the procedure, but she betrays him. She ties up his hands and feet, calls her father, and tells him she captured Sang, that she's going to steal his power and finish him. Our hero is shocked and realizes they tricked him. He tries to escape but can't because he has no money. Joanna laughs and tells him this is the end. She orders the gang to begin the procedure. They bring a drill toward his head because they're fully planning to take his power, but then they're shocked because he isn't scared. He suddenly laughs. Out of nowhere, his superpowered friends arrive, cut the electricity, open the bag full of money, and send the cash flying everywhere. Our hero takes advantage of the moment, grabs a huge amount of money, uses his power, frees himself, and says, "If you mess with the wolf, you deserve the torture." He attacks the guards, beats them up, and opens the door for his superpowered friends to come in and help him. Then it becomes clear this was all part of the plan. They staged everything so they could destroy the lab, and it turns out that when they fought each other earlier, it was because the gang was watching them at the time. The lawyer comes in happy because the plan is working. He grabs the files from the safe and starts throwing gasoline everywhere. But then the fire alarm goes off, and because of that, a huge number of guards arrive and start beating down on them. Our hero decides to escape the place, but then Minsu calls him at the absolute worst time and says, "By the way, I arranged a time for you to meet my family." Sang pretends to be happy, but then the money bag slips from his hand. He tries to pull it back, but the door shuts on it, and he feels crushed. Great. I failed again, and I'm broke again. So he's forced to leave it and go with the lawyer. Their powers run out, so they grab each other's hands and jump out the window. They fall into a water tank, but guards surround them and try to kill them. Then their cook friend arrives just in time and saves them. They all get happy, get in the car with her, and escape. The whole ride, Sang keeps crying over the money he lost, but his friends try to cheer him up and tell him, "Son, money comes and goes. What matters is your health." He says, "Yeah, sure." At that same time, Joe reaches the secret lab and is shocked to see it destroyed. We find out he's a total psycho. He goes to the doctor and asks her to give him every injection that contains superpowers. He keeps laughing, and it's clear he's planning something dangerous. After that, Sang goes home and finds Minsu asleep on the couch from exhaustion. He feels bad for her, covers her with a blanket, and refuses to wake her. She prepared his favorite favorite food for him. He's touched by how caring she is and realizes she's the real hero, not him, so he eats happily. The next day he goes to work and apologizes to the manager for running from the police yesterday. He decides to fix his mistake and turn himself in. He takes the lawyer with him and goes to the station. There, the cop questions him but doesn't find any evidence against him, so he clears him. Sang gets happy and thinks the whole thing is over, but the lawyer tells him to stay careful because the cop will definitely keep an eye on him. Then he leaves. That night, Joanna and her psycho brother gather at home. Even though they're siblings, they treat each other like enemies, to the point where she once tried to kill him when they were kids. Their father arrives, learns what happened in the lab, and gets furious. He decides to make Joe the one in charge of the secret experiments from now on. After that, Sang meets his superpowered friends, and they tell him the gang has started running dangerous experiments on normal civilians. They discover these experiments are taking place in a nightclub, so they agree on a plan and decide to carry it out the next day so they can catch them. Sang goes back home, but he finds Minsu waiting for him. She gives him a new suit, and the moment he puts it on, she says, "In my eyes, you already look like a superhero, but really this is because you're going to meet my family." She tells him to take care of it. Our hero gets nervous because tomorrow he has to do the mission, but he tells her, absolutely, and promises he'll come on time. The next day he says goodbye to her and pretends he's just going to work. But once she leaves, he goes to meet his superpowered friends. He enters the nightclub with the cook, and the lawyer sends them a picture of a red bag the girl selling the experiments is carrying. So they start looking for her. Sang sees her and goes after her, thinking she's just some regular, helpless girl, not knowing she definitely has a superpower too. He tries to grab her, but he's shocked by how fast she is. He realizes her power is exactly like his, super speed. He pulls out money to use his power, but she's even faster. In a flash, she takes it from him, pulls out a knife, and starts slashing from every direction, left, right, up, down, even ripping his suit. Our hero gets annoyed because Minsu is going to yell at him for that. So he closes his eyes, tries to focus, gathers himself, and manages to pinpoint her location by sound. Then he lands a hit that sends her flying, takes her bag, and rushes out so he can still make it to the family meeting. But Psycho Joe is right there and sees him. He decides to welcome him in his own twisted way. He cuts the electricity and tells everyone in the place to take the red bag from Sang, promising it'll make them rich. Of course, they all get excited and attack him. The cook tries to use her power and lifts the bag into the air, but they hit her and knock her down. Sang has to run for the bag and hug it so they can't take it. Minsu tries calling him, but he can't answer because they've got him completely surrounded, and because of that he can't breathe and passes out. The guards take advantage of the moment and move in to grab him, but the police arrive just in time and start arresting everybody. Sang wakes up and has no idea what to do. The lawyer uses his power, grabs him, and takes him underground. He feels bad because Sang is late for the meeting, so he sews up his suit for him and gives him money so he can still make it in time. Sang thanks him and runs as fast as he can until he reaches the restaurant, expecting Minsu to yell at him, but he's surprised to find her talking to the police officer. He hears her defending him, saying he's a hero who helps people without asking for anything in return. He's moved by her words, apologizes for being late, and decides to turn himself in so he won't cause her any more problems. The officer takes him to the station, and there he scolds him for putting his own life in danger and tells him not to interfere in police work, but Sang isn't convinced. He tells him the matter is bigger than them. This is about superpowered heroes, and I'm one too, so it's my duty to help people. The officer decides to lock him up so he won't get himself killed. The next day, Psycho Joe visits him in jail and threatens him, "Stay out of my way, or I'll kill Minsu." The moment Joe brings her up, he says the wrong thing. Sang gets furious and warns him, "If you even get close to a single hair on her head, you'll regret it." But Joe doesn't care. He just laughs and leaves. Later, the police transfer our hero again, but he notices the guards are actually from the gang, and he realizes they want to kidnap him. He tries to escape, but he doesn't have any money. He tries to fight them, but one of the guards gives him money and tells him to hold his breath. Suddenly, the car falls into the sea. Sang takes advantage of the moment, uses his superpower, frees himself, and escapes before he drowns. At the same time, Minsu is on her way home when she finds gang members waiting for her. She tries to run, but they corner her and move in to kidnap her. Then suddenly, another group of guards arrives just in time, saves her, and takes her with them. After that, Sang comes out of the water and finds Joanna and his superpowered friends waiting for him. He's stunned and has no idea what's going on. The lawyer assures him he's safe and takes him aside to explain. They tell him Joanna has agreed to work with them so they can defeat her brother and their father. Our hero is just relieved that Minsu is okay. That's all that matters. Forget the rest. He agrees and decides he wants revenge on the psycho for trying to kidnap her. Then Joanna starts explaining the plan. She tells them her brother stole the superpowers from the lab and hid them in a secret vault in the bank. She asks them to steal them back. Sang realizes it's a difficult mission, but he doesn't have another choice. So he agrees with his friends on a plan, and they decide to carry it out the next day. Minsu overhears them and gets worried. She goes to talk to him and asks him not to do it because the mission is dangerous and he could die. But Sang tells her, "I want to live with you in peace, and that won't happen unless I defeat the gang." He holds her hand and reassures her that he'll be okay. Minsu is moved and tells him, "Fine, I'll be waiting for you." Then she decides to help him. She goes to meet the rich woman she works for and asks her to lend her money. At first, the rich woman refuses, but when she hears he's going to rob the bank, she changes her mind and agrees because she says she's wanted to do that for ages. "I'm crazy anyway." Minsu gets happy that she turned out to be crazy, takes a huge amount of money from her, and the next day gives it to Sang, asking him to make good use of it and break some faces. Our hero is thrilled and promises he will. Then he goes to meet his superpowered friends, and together they head to the bank. Joanna stands far away, watching them, and tells her guards to kill them when they come out and take the stolen powers from them. Yep, evil really runs through her veins. Our heroes start carrying out the plan. Sang decides to risk his life. The moment he enters, he walks up to an employee and says, "Peace be upon you. I'm here to rob the bank." The employee is stunned by how casual he is, gets scared, hits the alarm button, and all the doors shut. Guards arrive and surround him with guns, but our hero is completely confident because he has a lot of money. He hides under a table while the guards keep shooting at him, but he doesn't get hurt. He's doing that just to stall them until the lawyer can use his power, phase through the walls, and get into the vault. Then Sang decides to use the chance and the money Minsu gave him. He grabs a large amount, uses his superpower, and attacks the guards all by himself, absolutely wrecking them. He beats every last one of them until nobody can even look him in the eye. But suddenly, Joanna's guards arrive, so he's forced to run from them. He regroups with the cook, starts smashing the floor with all his strength until it breaks, and drops down to the lawyer inside the vault. But there they're shocked to find him lying on the ground unconscious. Then the speed girl appears. It turns out Psycho Joe was the one who ordered her to do this. She corners them and decides to kill them. Sang notices his money is almost gone, but he decides to sacrifice himself and stands in front of them to fight her. Then the lawyer wakes up, pushes Sang through a wall, and shoves him into a secret underground room to save him.
"I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger."
Our hero is stunned to discover the room is completely full of money. Beautiful sight.
Go to WWE.com and register. I wonder what $1 million even smells like.
He gets happy, starts stuffing it into his pockets and says, "All right, boys, I'm ready for any fight now." He goes back to his superpowered friends, frees them and the normal people, and tells them to get out while he fights the gang by himself. And he really does. Sang starts fighting the gang members even though there are so many of them and they're using weapons. But he doesn't care, because now he has money for days. He keeps defeating them one after another until he reaches Psycho Joe. The speed girl tries to hit him, but he blocks her attacks easily, grabs her by the neck, throws her, chokes her, and slams her into the wall. Then he closes in on Psycho Joe, who keeps laughing. Sang realizes this is finally the end for him and tries to hit him, but suddenly he gets dizzy. He feels like he's somehow tied up. Then he falls to the ground and passes out. When he wakes up, he finds himself handcuffed in a police car. What the hell is happening? He grabs money and tries to use his power, but it doesn't work. Did they steal the power too? Somebody explain this to me. But then the police officer lets him go because he's no longer superpowered. So Sang leaves and decides to go see his father so he can understand what happened. His father tells him he exhausted all of his power because he used it too much, but assures him it will come back. It just needs time. Then he tells him his real power is his heart, because he loves helping people. He gives him back the piggy bank he stole from him when he was little and asks him to forgive him. Our hero is deeply moved and decides to reconcile with him. At the same time, the gang boss gets angry that his psycho son failed the mission and wants to kill him, but then changes his mind and gives him a ticket to America because that's the punishment in his eyes, sending him far away. But Psycho Joe refuses to surrender and decides to get revenge on our hero. After that, Sang goes back home, only to be shocked when he finds the place trashed and learns that Minsu has been kidnapped. Suddenly, he gets a call from Psycho Joe, telling him to surrender or he'll kill her. He says he'll choose a place for them to meet, then hangs up. Joe tries to intimidate Minsu, but he's shocked to find that she isn't scared. She laughs and says she trusts Sang. She's sure he'll come save her and make him regret everything he's done. Our hero waits there, remembering all the beautiful moments he had with Minsu. He feels guilty because she was kidnapped because of him. He cries and decides he'll do anything to save her, even sacrifice his own life for hers. Then suddenly the speed girl appears and throws him money to see whether his superpower has returned. She makes him a deal. If he beats her, she'll tell him where Minsu is. Sang tries to catch her, but she uses her speed and moves so fast he can't even see her. She beats him and injures him badly, but he doesn't give up. He takes the pain. The girl sees he's weak, makes fun of him, and comes closer to kill him. But suddenly his superpowered friends arrive and use their own powers to surround her and defeat her. They reassure him that even if he's weak, they aren't weak, and they're with him, supporting him. Then they sit with him and tell him the place where Minsu is being held. But they warn him there are many guards there, and if he goes, they'll kill him. Sang refuses to abandon her. He says, "I'm ready to sacrifice anything for her." Then he leaves and heads out to save Minsu. He stands on the roof of the building where she's being held and jumps off, hoping his superpower will come back. He slams into the ground so hard his whole body gets wrecked. The guards gather around him, convinced he's an idiot who just killed himself. But then all his injuries start healing and they're stunned. How is he still alive? Our hero is overjoyed that his power finally didn't fail him. He grabs money and starts attacking the guards by himself, using his boxing skills. He keeps fighting them and tossing them around until he defeats every single one and drops them all to the floor. Then he heads up the stairs to get to Minsu, but a bunch more guards are in his face. He grabs the money he has left to fight them, but suddenly his superpowered friends arrive and help him. They tell him to save his money for rescuing Minsu, and that they'll handle the guards for him. Sang basically tells them, "Damn, that's some real loyalty," and thanks them. Then he sees Minsu kidnapped and uses his money to jump over to her, but Psycho Joe is waiting for him. He shoots him in the shoulder, and Sang notices the wound is bleeding. That's when he realizes the money he had is gone. Joe laughs and tells him he planted a bomb in the elevator. Then he threatens him and says if he doesn't surrender his superpower, he'll push Minsu. Our hero is torn and almost agrees, but suddenly the lawyer drops down from the ceiling, grabs the Psycho, and tries to take the gun from him. Sadly, he gets shot in the stomach and falls to the ground. The Psycho laughs and gives Sang one last chance, telling him to surrender or he'll kill them all. Sang gets furious and decides to sacrifice himself. He rushes at the Psycho, drags him into the elevator, and shuts the door on them. He says goodbye to Minsu, apologizes that he won't be able to stay with her or keep living his life with her. The last thing he tells her is that he loves her. Then he starts the elevator and boom, it goes up and explodes. Sadly, he and the Psycho are blown away. Minsu collapses and keeps calling his name, crying, unable to bear what she just saw. News of his death spreads everywhere. People learn that a hero sacrificed himself, and Minsu is devastated. She shuts herself inside the house and loses all hope in life. She even wanted to follow him and die too. But then his superpowered friends come talk to her and tell her they can bring Sang back. She's shocked and asks how. The lawyer tells her that the police officer who arrested Sang before has a secret superpower. He can turn back time. That's why he was always helping them in secret. He asks her to go meet him. Minsu gets happy and hope comes back into her life. She runs to the station and starts searching for the officer until she finds him. She begs him to use his power and bring Sang back. The officer refuses because he's afraid the future will be affected, but Minsu refuses to give up. She cries and tells him Sang sacrificed his life to save the world, and he's the only one who can defeat the gang. The officer is moved by her words. Then suddenly he hears gunfire and realizes the gang is after him too, so he decides to help her. He gives her his watch so she can use it. Minsu really does use it. She chooses the moment when Sang died, goes back in time, and puts money in his hand so he can use it. Then when the bomb explodes, she runs to check on him, but she doesn't find him and thinks she failed. But then suddenly, Sang crawls out from under the rubble, still alive like a beast, because he used the money and healed his injuries. Minsu gets happy, runs to him, and hugs him while crying. Sang apologizes and tells her it's all over now. But then he notices Psycho Joe has disappeared and realizes he's still alive. At the same time, the Psycho goes back home and finds Joanna waiting for him. She decides to kill him and shoots at him too, but the bullet ricochets and hits her instead. Then she remembers what the old man who sees the future said and realizes he was telling the truth. She drops to the ground and dies, along with all of her guards. We also find out the speed girl did it because she loves Joe, but when she notices he's injured from the explosion, she takes him to the lab to save his life. He asks her to give him all the superpowers, and she actually does it, turning him from a normal human into a superpowered monster. She goes to check on him, but instead of thanking her, the pig tests his power on her. Then he heads to the station and defeats the police. After that, he walks through the streets full of confidence. He sees a little girl fallen on the ground and goes toward her, planning to throw her aside. But suddenly, Sang arrives just in time, hurls a rock at him, sends him flying, checks that the girl is safe, and tells her to run. The Psycho gets up, shocked and furious, and uses releases his new power, shooting electricity from his hands. Our hero is stunned and tries to dodge his attacks. The two of them are evenly matched, and they keep fighting for so long that they start destroying the city and cutting off the electricity everywhere. Sang's superpowered friends arrive and try to help him, but the psycho gets angry, rips up a pole, and throws it at innocent people. Our hero is forced to risk his life and tries to catch it, but unfortunately the money he has runs out and he falls to the ground. His friends try to help him, but the psycho beats them down and sends them flying. Then he steps towards Sang, laughing and saying, "Now you're alone." He keeps beating him with everything he has and decides to finish him off. Sang falls to the ground and thinks this is the end. But then suddenly, the little girl he saved throws him the money from her piggy bank and tells him to use it. Then the rest of the people start copying her, telling him to save them. They start throwing money at him from everywhere. Sang is shocked and realizes that all the good he did didn't go to waste. Then Minsu arrives with the police, and they start throwing him money too. They cheer for him and chant his name so he can defeat the psycho. His superpowered friends get back up and help him, holding the psycho in place. Our hero is overwhelmed and feels he's not alone anymore. He decides to seize the chance, attacks the psycho with all his strength, lands the finishing blow, defeats him, and wins the fight. And finally, peace returns to the city. A week later, the pig of a gang boss gets arrested and sentenced to life in prison for all the crimes he committed and all the experiments he ran. The cook goes back to her old life and decides to open her own restaurant. The lawyer goes back to his daughter after defeating the gang. And our hero Sang, thank God, gets a huge reward from the police for everything he did, and finally buys the apartment he always wanted to get married in, People. Then he decides to keep living peacefully with Minsu, and he finds out she's pregnant. Beautiful. So now he decides to save money, because when they bring their little baby into the world, he'll need to spend on her and spoil her too. And that's how the story ends, with good finally winning and evil getting what it deserves. So wherever you're watching from, don't let that tiny evil voice inside you stop you from liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on the bell. Show some love, stay tuned for more, and have a beautiful evening, my friend.